Hi, Jennifer. My name is Asil. I'm from the city. I'm your support member.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Hello.
Hi, let me know if you need anything.
I'm about to share my screen. I'll let you know if I have trouble.
Okay.
I do apologize. My children are in the background.
No worries.
Oops. Hold on. Let's just do that. All right, I'm ready if anybody is here to listen. Should I go ahead and get started? Or should we wait a few more minutes?
You asking someone in particular, or you taking a poll?
Taking a poll, Lloyd.
I'm fine with going forward.
All right, well, I'll take it from the top then. Sorry, I was having trouble with PowerPoint, so we're going to do this in PDF format. So Kingwood Drive et al. This is a group of amendments in Northeast Harris County and Liberty County, far and away from central Houston. The area in general is there's Huffman Cleveland, which is FM 2100 over here, and then a lot of undeveloped area between that and the Grand Parkway, which on this aerial you can just see the movement of earth, but is since constructed and I think might be open to traffic now. So we're kind of in between that area. Right through here is Loose Bayou or Lucy Bayou. And this is the Interbasin Transfer Canal that goes along there. So this is kind of the area that we're in. And we're proposing 4 amendments, one of which is in 2 parts. Kingwood, existing Kingwood, according to the current thoroughfare plan, is here, and that has kind of been the driver that brought this amendment request forward, and that's what it's named for. There's also Miller Wilson Road right here, Wolftrot Road right here, and Magnolia Lane, which is a collector street that also comes through this area. There's a number of large single landowners in the area, one of which we represent, which if you're looking at the screen and not on the phone, is in orange. So we're going to start at the top with 1A, which is a segment of Kingwood Drive. The first proposal for Kingwood Drive is to realign this portion from kind of close to the property boundary further into this single ownership tract. And the main purpose for this change is to get the thoroughfare out of the floodplain and floodway of Loose Bayou, which in this case is 2,700 feet or so of floodplain in this area based on where the GIS alignment has the route for Kingwood currently. That's quite a large bridge, and the proposed alignment is intended to kind of hug the northern side of Loose Bayou and try and stay out of the floodplain and floodway as much as possible. We're also trying to negotiate a right angle intersection with Idle Lock, which is this north-south collector that also goes through the property. So this is the first proposed amendment, not a deletion, just a realignment to intersect with Miller Wilson Road further north. So for the summary slide, this Kingwood is currently a T4100 and it will remain a T4100. K1B is also Kingwood Drive further east. So over on the left side of the screen, you can see where Kingwood is proposed by the previous amendment to come up further north. On the east side of Miller Wilson, we're proposing to add a new segment of Thoroughfare, which is not currently anywhere on the map, which would be an extension of Kingwood Drive. And the goal here is to still get across Loose Bayou at a narrower point. The floodplain there is only about 700 feet wide. So trying to hit the narrowest point of the floodplain when we make that crossing. The other goal that we're trying to do is to hit an existing interchange of the Grand Parkway. So we've left kind of the original alignment of Kingwood to the south on the map, not proposing to take that out, but further east, there is not a full interchange with ramps where that route is going. And we want Kingwood to hit further north where this is an existing interchange that has ramps that will extend much further to the east into Liberty County through the city of Dayton, hit some eventual large thoroughfares over in that part of Liberty County, and will become a very strong east-west connector for the region. By hitting an interchange with the Grand Parkway instead of just an underpass with no ramps, the interchange also provides much more powerful mobility by connecting to the Grand Parkway. And so we think this is going to be really a regional benefit for the whole area. We have talked to the two affected major landowners, and so far, both of those landowners have indicated agreement with this new thoroughfare being added to their property as well. So K1B is to add this new segment of Kingwood Drive. Does not exist currently on the map anywhere, would be a T4100 continuing from the west. K2 is Miller Wilson Road. This is a north-south thoroughfare. And the primary driver of this request to delete a segment of Miller Wilson Road is again because of the wide crossing of Loose Bayou. This thoroughfare is proposed to cross an area that is over 1,000 feet wide at the floodway, or sorry, at the floodplain. The floodway information we weren't able to get. The FEMA map seems to just cut off at a certain point. But there's definitely a large floodplain there and definitely environmental impacts from making that crossing. It's also going to be complicated by the fact that kind of the edge of the floodplain is kind of right at the end of a property boundary on the south side of what would be ultimately the bridge if this were constructed, and just very difficult to coordinate construction of a bridge that's 1,000 feet long when the other side of the bridge is a third party. So that would definitely require multiple parties' participation, including public participation, to get that project done. So really just requesting to minimize impacts to Loose Bayou and delete this segment of the thoroughfare. So the summary request, Miller Wilson Road is currently a T4100 thoroughfare and proposing to delete it. K3 is Magnolia Lane. Magnolia Lane is a collector street on Houston's major thoroughfare plan. It connects further to the west to FM 2100 according to Harris County's upcoming MMTP. Magnolia Lane is a major collector, and looking at kind of a larger picture, if the new Kingwood Drive alignment is not added, it's about 1 mile or so from this section of Magnolia Lane south to the old alignment of Kingwood Drive, which we're not proposing to remove. So you have about 1 mile from here to here up to this next thoroughfare to the north. So this major collector really intended to kind of bridge the gap in the thoroughfare plan as far as I can tell. It also crosses Loose Bayou. And here again, the floodplain is also about 1,000 feet wide. And especially if the new alignment of Kingwood Drive is added, just kind of looking at, the impacts of having multiple crossings of the bayou, and the fact that a new thoroughfare is being added in terms of mobility, another major collector so close to the new thoroughfare, probably not as necessary from looking at traffic needs. And so the request is to, again, delete this segment of that major collector, Magnolia Lane, to eliminate the crossing, and especially because the spacing is not nearly as necessary if Kingwood Drive is extended as proposed. So again, the summary is to delete what is currently an MJ 480 Collector Street from the map. Wolftrot Road is K4. This is the last request. And Wolftrot Road does not have anything to do with the floodplain. This is really more a question that we wanted to pose to the commission about how the thoroughfare plan is implemented. The question is, this thoroughfare, for the most part, seems to straddle these property lines. And it's not necessarily clear if that's intended to be shared. If a thoroughfare kind of goes near a property line, sometimes it's said that, this person gets, half of the right of way and that person gets half of the right of way. But sometimes if a thoroughfare goes straight into the property, then it's said, okay, the thoroughfare goes in your property and you build all of it. But then you have frontage on both sides. And so we'd like to bring the thoroughfare into our property. It makes, this site have kind of more developable depth on both sides. But at the end of the day, if it's decided that the thoroughfare is meant to straddle the property line, we understand that. We just really want to have a defined decision about where Wolftrot Road is going to be. And of course, we'd like it to be over here. We'd like to move it further into the site for the developer that we represent. But at the end of the day, really just asking, can we decide once and for all where this thoroughfare is? Not proposing changes to the classification. It's currently a T4 100 and will remain a T4 100. And here is kind of the overview of all of the requests. And that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
I suspect so. This is Lloyd. I recognize all the names on the call with the exception of Mr. Kinsella. Mr. Kinsella, could you introduce yourself? My name's Lloyd Smith. I'm one of the Planning Commission members, and I recognize most of the other folks as either being agency representatives or planners representing the landowners. But
yes, this is John Kinsella. I work for Ned Homes and Homes Investments, and Ned, as trustee, is the owner of the Lake Youth Adventure property to the south there.
oh, I got it. Okay, so landowner interest. Very good.
That landowner, yeah. So yeah, it looks like that road, Wolftrot, that was towards our eastern boundary, under this proposal is being moved more to the center of our property. And I presume this is for the benefit of the property north of us also?
Yes, so it would just make that road a little more centrally located for the tract north of that, and would have somewhat of an impact on your property as well. But
right, again, like you say, frontage on both sides.
I'm sorry, I can just barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we obviously would have the frontage on both sides as well. Are
Correct.
you at liberty to say who is the owner north of us that's working on this?
The entity name is Pemasani, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But we, our contact is through the project engineer. So.
Okay. Okay. Yes, well, this is the first we're hearing about this, when we got the notices, of course. And my main purpose was just to see what it is that's being proposed here, and then to let my boss know about it. So basically, just Wolftrot Road is moving to the west. You know, Wolftrot Road was actually to the south of our property. I didn't realize it came along the south and then came north like that.
Yes, so it is an existing street right now. The proposed alignment is taking that name, Wolftrot Road, although part of it currently on the ground does jog east-west.
Okay. So that road literally is going to make a sharp turn north to go across these properties.
Yes, so this is kind of the area that we're in right now.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's this. Are you on the computer?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see my cursor.
Yes.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this little blue line that's going east-west right here is
Mhm.
the existing portion of Wolftrot that goes east-west. And then another piece is projected to go north-south, which is
Okay.
the piece that we're talking about here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Susan, excuse me, Jennifer, wrong name. Do you think the name Wolftrot is a potential source of confusion to the public, given the existing road being an east-west and so on?
Well, so the existing road jogs both north-south and east-west.
Yeah.
And I believe that the current GIS layers have just reflected that a segment is currently called Wolftrot Road. If the name needs to change, I'm certainly not opposed to that, but I can understand that it could be confusing, yes.
Okay. Well, I see Sharon's on the call. That might be something we consider on the side from this.
Yeah, I think
Understood.
so. I was listening to you as you answered that question, Lloyd, and that's a good question for our division that handles the naming of streets. So we've got Malati Quintanilla, I think I said her name correctly, but she would handle that if we can get beyond the proposed amendment.
Right. Right.
And if
Well,
there's an issue there with
this labeling that we have on the major thoroughfare plan,
Yeah.
there's a kind of a challenge here. For example, on this one, you can see an east-west road near the top of the picture that's called unnamed major thoroughfare. Well, if you end up with too many unnamed major thoroughfares, that becomes a source of confusion of which one are you talking about. But I've seen these continuation names being a challenge as well. So anyway, that's kind of a side point. Couple comments for you, Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
Sharon and her team, with participation from David Saha from Flood Control and some others from outside the city, and my organization met earlier today. And I guess one of the first questions is Sharon made this statement that she thought 1A and 1B, the two halves, if you will, of the proposed alignment of the east-west thoroughfare,
Kingwood Drive.
Kingwood Drive, are a pair and need to be considered as one as a practical matter. That makes sense to you that we do that?
Yes, that's how I would like them to be considered, because we are really focusing on the regional east-west mobility, and we feel like those two need to go together to make that happen.
Okay, and then I'm just trying to sort of get a logical basis for how we tackle the discussion of these. In my mind, I didn't say this in the earlier meeting, but it strikes me too that the proposed deletion of the now parallel Magnolia is kind of part of the same package, because you've got to have an agreement on 1A and 1B for the Magnolia proposal to be viable in the scheme of how we consider major thoroughfares, right?
I definitely can see that there would be a causal relationship there. I
Yeah.
think, even if 1A and 1B weren't happening, we would still hope to eliminate that crossing. But I
Right.
definitely see how the one helps the other.
Yeah, yeah. And then Wolftrot, again, this is just me thinking off the cuff. The Wolftrot alignment's kind of standalone. It's almost independent of the others.
Very much so.
And you stated as much, saying that the border challenge there is a big part of why that's on your list, and I understand why that is.
Correct.
And then the other two, I guess it's
The last,
two
the
related to Miller
last one
Wilson.
is Miller Wilson. That's the only one we haven't discussed here.
Right.
And that one again is intended to function as a standalone, although it does have some interplay with the Kingwood request.
Right. So we'll talk about Kingwood first.
All right.
And some of this is repeating some of the questions or comments I made at the commission meeting where you introduced this. So the logic of minimizing the environmental footprint through the crossing location, minimizing cost of construction, minimizing maintenance cost for I guess Liberty County in this case. Well, we'd actually be shifting it from Harris County to Liberty County, but the public cost of maintaining the bridge, all of those things point to exactly what you said. Pick a location that's relatively speaking short across the floodplain rather than long to minimize the bridge length. So that's all very logical, and I don't think it's under anybody's thoughts of dispute. The question I asked, that I don't know if your bigger overview of all of the applications answered, but is still on my mind from the prior review, is in the scheme of looking at major streams, and Luce is in fact a pretty major stream out in this part of the county. We need to consider how the major thoroughfare will define how many crossings over many decades might be viable across that stream. And within the view that we have in this picture, in this more upstream end in Liberty County, you can see the blue line there near the top, a green line representing Grand Parkway, and then we had Magnolia. And then down, continuing farther south, we had the east-west portion now shown for relocation there. And so that frequency, I'm going to guess that I don't see a scale on here right off, but let's say that's one every 1.5 miles or so along that reach.
It might be a little less than that, honestly. Up in the Northeast, they're fairly
Right.
frequent.
And so that's fine. That's not inconsistent with the sort of accepted sort of general purpose of the major thoroughfare grid being, or pattern being, a every mile or so. And my question at the planning commission was, if we take that same view of how many crossings in how many miles, and instead of looking north from this view, we look south. It seems to me that the 1.5 miles or so relocation of the crossing of Kingwood is going to add to some distance that exists to the south. And the exhibits that I've seen so far haven't really answered whether that is creating a 1.75 miles gap because there's another map thoroughfare in close proximity, or it's creating one of many miles that may run counter to the purposes of the grid pattern that we seek.
Yes, Lloyd, and I apologize. I did not prepare an exhibit of that, but if you could bear with me for just one moment, I can pull up Google Earth and we can investigate where the next crossing is.
Right, or even the major thoroughfare plan itself, if that doesn't give us the right view, but either work, I think.
Yes. I'll just pull up, I'll pull up the Houston, my city map. That will be able to give us the
Yeah, perfect.
the aerial and the thoroughfare network.
And the floodplain too, which is pertinent.
Yes, sir. Just bear with me one moment.
Sure. All right, I got to ask Chris Brown, are you here just for the popcorn opportunity, or are you representing the adjacent landowner? What's your deal, Chris?
You gonna throw tomatoes at me, Chris?
More, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? Bordering on obscene interest. No, Lloyd, we did a lot of work for you just recently on all these thoroughfares. And then my former client is to your north, Jennifer, and I was curious about the rationale for Miller Wilson, so that's why I thought I would drop in.
Got it. Anyway, nice to see you virtually.
Appreciate your interest. All right, Lloyd, so the answer to your question then is currently Idle Lock extends from Kingwood to FM 2100 about 1 3/4 miles in a straight line.
Okay, and then before you move the view too far, it looks like there may be a crossing of Loose Bayou there.
Here, I believe, is a local street. Yes, this is the Bayou, and this is a local street crossing. Right here.
Okay. I see David Saha is on the line. I think it might be interesting for you and I to have some history on that bridge, looking at the width of that floodplain and floodway, and just giving
how
it
many
general
homes are in it?
consideration. I suspect that's a piece of construction that was done prior to many of the current regulatory checks and balances we have, and in all likelihood is not available as a safe route during many types of storms. But we could do a little digging on that. But Jennifer, you're correct. Between the two major thoroughfares, 1 3/4 miles. So I guess the next measurement would be from currently mapped Kingwood to the proposed location, and we'd add 1 3/4 to whatever distance that is.
Yes, let me just throw a rough number on here. We're proposing to move this crossing to the narrow point here.
Right.
And separately to delete this crossing. So that distance, oops, come on. Oops, I apologize. Is 3.5 miles.
Okay. Well, I made the statement earlier that the biggest stream we have within Harris County is the San Jacinto River. And if you think of the relatively few crossings we have there, starting from the south, we have I-10, we have FM 1960 going across the lake. To the north of that, we have 90A and Old 90, which are kind of a pair very close together. And then you have to go all the way around to US 59. Perhaps Grand Parkway. I kind of forget how that map works, but that's the most extreme distances we have across any stream, and most of the others, up to and including the scale and flow and floodplain width of Loose Bayou, I don't know that we have others that have that kind of distance of 3.5 miles. So I suggested to Sharon, let's look a little more there. I'm not opposed to a good rational solution here that's in the bounds of what we've done as a commission in other locations. But this total of 3.5 miles plus in an area that we know is going to see development, I'd like to know with a little more confidence. Let's say that doesn't turn out too favorably. To me, one of the options to consider, that this might be better shown on one of your exhibits, but
I can switch back.
reroute Kingwood as you suggested, but that deleted portion that's essentially east-west right now, that would go away. Instead, perhaps that's a collector classification that hooks into the bend of the new alignment of Kingwood,
Like
to
so.
put each developer responsible for something in that area to preserve the corridor, but with the possibility of some discussion as to whether more than that might be required by Harris County in terms of the development. But again, I
Okay.
want to kind of sort that out in a way that the commission can be handed a relatively cohesive and understandable recommendation from the county. I'm not going to prejudge what my vote or my thoughts are, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that there's a lot of good reasons that this Kingwood alignment makes sense. Starting at the east end there with that termination, it's just that distance is the one issue presented here that's giving me a little pause at this point.
Understood. Just as you consider that, one factor of note, this neighborhood being largely built out and the unrecorded subdivisions here, just there not being a lot of opportunity down here for a crossing.
Right.
So I look forward to your recommendations.
Okay.
All right. Did you want to go back to the other amendments, or was that?
No, you mentioned coordination with adjacent property owners. The tract there labeled Peter Morgan.
Yes, sir.
One of the things about the Wolftrot alignment is I generally would support clarity of responsibility along a boundary for an aligned major thoroughfare. You and Chris and others on this call have been part of some pretty complicated situations where those thoroughfares run
Yes.
down a line. So I'm inherently inclined to agree with that. But the balancing to that is, as the adjacent owner is affected, what's the impact to him? So at a high level, it seems to me that that property still has the same access to Wolftrot as it comes off the major the highway interchange. And he actually gains more total thoroughfare frontage because of the extension of Kingwood across his property. So in terms of benefit for future development, more thoroughfare is generally favorably looked at by developers. On the other hand, some landowners or developers will say, that's more road right away for me to dedicate, and more road construction cost on me than I had previously. Do you have any sense of where that property owner's plans are or what
Yes. Yes. So
impact?
I've spoken personally with Dr. Morgan and also with a firm that's representing him. I don't know if they're on the call today. I'll try not to speak out of turn, but the initial conversation with Dr. Morgan was very favorable towards the extension of Kingwood. I have not heard any objections from either party about that extension. The Wolftrot Road request did give them some pause, and we understand obviously that there's the double-edged sword of having to build, dedicate and build the thoroughfare, and then having the frontage as well. And so I do intend to reach back out to them and kind of get a final kind of a judgment call as to whether or not they're in favor of the Wolftrot alignment. That one, it seemed like they were kind of on the fence about.
Okay, well, my point with my commissioner hat on is Sharon being able to report what contacts you've reported back, or whatever engagement. That could be a commission question that balances
Yes,
what is otherwise a pretty straightforward argument for a clear line that minimizes the future complications of a border road.
exactly. And we really are, at the end of the day, just looking for clarification.
Right. Okay.
Which, by the way, I will have that clarification for you, Jennifer. I've already researched the issue, and I can address that with you later. But if you can get anything written, in written support for your alignment, that will help us as we move forward from this
I'm
property
seeking
owner.
that.
We can talk more about it as we go.
Yes, ma'am. I'm seeking, ultimately, I hope to have a letter one way or the other.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks.
All right.
Is this a good
I'm out
time
of
for me?
questions.
This is John Kinsella with the Lake Houston venture. I'm curious now about, well, it looks like old Kingwood Drive was going to go across the northern part of our property. Now it looks like it's not, but you're calling something called Old Kingwood Road and then Miller Wilson Road. Where does Miller Wilson Road come from, and where is Old Kingwood Drive? I guess doesn't have exits through it, but what exactly is going on there with those two roads?
If you like, I'll actually switch back to the GIS map because it shows more of your property.
Okay.
So looking to the south here, you'll be familiar with your area right here. So this
Right.
is the proposed route of Miller Wilson, which kind of follows sort of the western boundary of most of your tract.
Okay.
And this is the current alignment of Kingwood, which hugs the northern boundary of your tract. And then this over here is Wolftrot that I was just speaking to Commissioner Smith about. So all
Right.
three of these kind of bookend your property.
Mhm. But now Kingwood Road will not be on our property at all under this new proposal.
No, sir, not exactly. So we aren't saying that we're going to do anything with this segment right here, which is largely within your property. The only thing that we're trying to affect is the bridge over Loose Bayou. So we would terminate here, basically with a T intersection is what we've proposed in our drawing. The red dots here would remain as is.
Mhm.
I apologize. Samuel. Hush. I apologize. And the X's right here would be removed from the map, and those roads would no longer be there if the amendment is approved. So you would have kind of a right angle turn.
Okay, so that right angle turn, and what is that road gonna be on the right angle? That's not Kingwood Drive anymore. Or is it?
That's why we've called it Old Kingwood. Currently, it's called Kingwood just because it exists as Kingwood further to the left. If this extension is approved, then we would assume that it would have the name Kingwood, although that's certainly subject to discussion. As Lloyd mentioned earlier, you know, these names can sometimes be confusing, and it might be better to pick a new name. But this piece, if that amendment is approved, would no longer be connected to the piece of existing Kingwood further west, and so it might take a new name.
Yeah, I think my opinion would be that one would be a good one to call unnamed on your maps, because it really doesn't have a direct relationship going forward to the name Kingwood anymore, or a road named Kingwood. But
Right, there's nothing on the ground in there that has that Kingwood name attached to it on that, far eastern side, but it does have an intersection with the Grand Parkway.
Correct.
Right.
Albeit just an underpass at that point.
Correct.
Is that name signed or connected to any roads that are named Kingwood at this time, Chris, to your knowledge?
Not
Or
that I know of. I haven't driven this yet. I'm kind of anxious to, but I don't believe that the other parts of the Grand Parkway where they have a future road, it's just, a bunch of concrete. There's no signs.
Okay. All right. I didn't mean to cut off the other speaker here with
No,
that
that-
level of detail.
That was my question. That's okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna jump to the main room for a minute and come back. I've got to bounce around just a little bit, Jennifer.
Sure thing, Sharon.
And I thank you, Jennifer. I'm also depart and hit one of the other meetings. Appreciate it.
All right. No, appreciate your thoughtful discussion, Lloyd.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So Jennifer, I'm putting, as I do a lot of times, straddling my professional hat as a land planner
Yes.
and my love of bayous, which I'm a board member of a certain group, but I don't represent them today.
Okay.
So not crossing them all over the place and interrupting flows and damaging our greatest natural resource. I love it. However, Miller Wilson is such a prominent north-south artery, and the distance spacing between Grand Parkway and FM 2100, and Miller Wilson has an intersection with the Grand Parkway farther to the north as well. So Your reasoning is totally sound. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just wondering about, and because Miller Wilson goes so far south as well.
Yes, it does.
I'm just wondering about the regional aspects of disconnecting that one little segment. I think could be problematic, just because of the spacing of, it's not that you couldn't get around, because obviously, you can divert over to Wolftrot or to 2100, but
right,
with the 5 mile, it's between like 4 and 5 miles between Grand Parkway and 2100 right there. It just seems like Miller Wilson is kind of a necessity, even though it's crossing a fairly wide portion of floodway of an important bayou. Again, I'm just musing. I don't know whether I have the ability. I'm certainly not representing anyone today, so I'm just
right.
talking.
No,
It just seems a little weird to disconnect what is such a major thoroughfare in the area. But I get it.
yeah, I definitely see both sides. I definitely agree that it does extend so far south and is on the ground for quite a ways. We're just, looking at really honestly the practicalities of, a bridge that's over 1,000 feet long with multiple property owners involved. And I mean, how good is a thoroughfare plan that can't be built,
Obviously, yeah. Well,
So,
Lloyd's not in the room
and
anymore, so we'll make Lloyd build it.
since he's not here anymore to defend himself.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
No, well, actually, that one will be on Liberty County.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
meeting
true.
with the county judge.
I just saw that.
Yeah, I'm meeting with the county judge next week, so we'll get his thoughts on that next week.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think that that would be a major in this portion of Liberty to consider. There's so much going on, and it that it does kind of terminate after you hit the Grand Parkway. It goes up into that wonderful stuff that's being built in Plum Grove.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go any farther. You have to distribute through one of the myriad of traffic circles they built over there. You end up having to go somewhere else. But nonetheless, it's a great separated interchange at the Grand Parkway. So that'll be interesting to hear what the judge there in Liberty has to say about that.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. It's been we had to go through a couple rounds of discussion. It's been a little delayed, but we're going to get there. Looking forward to having the meeting.
All the other things are very reasonable. I think those are wise decisions, and I think it works for the development of the tracks as well. So
yeah,
that's the only thing that I see to comment.
I definitely understand and appreciate the concern. It jumped out at me too. We're trying to balance things here. So
yep.
I mean, that's why we go through this process, right?
You bet. Well, good luck. I've got another meeting. You know how it goes.
I do. Have a good one.
Bye now.
Bye. Okay. Commissioner Mares, I don't know when you joined. Did you want me to go through the presentation again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did join midway through this when Commissioner Lloyd Smith was speaking. If you don't mind, if kind of running through it quickly, please.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I will start at the top. Okay, so Kingwood Drive, a group of amendments in Northeast Harris County and also partially in Liberty County. The area that we're looking at is, this is 2100 right here, Huffman, Cleveland. Grand Parkway right here, just finished construction. I believe it is open for traffic, although I don't know that for a fact. And then Lucy Bayou is a major bayou that comes through the middle of these vacant properties. The Luce Bayou Interbasin Canal, the canal transfer project right here for surface water, also is just east and kind of affects the area. So we have 5 amendments total proposed in 4 groups. There's one pair that we're considering together. And without further ado, this is Kingwood Drive, the main driver for the project. Kingwood Drive is an east-west thoroughfare. It exists on the ground over here to the west and is projected to extend through the site. This is Loose Bayou that I mentioned before. The floodway and floodplain are substantial. Here they're about 2,700 feet wide, end to end of the floodplain, and that would have to be bridged over. So what we're proposing instead is to realign this segment of Kingwood to hug the northern side of Loose Bayou and intersect with Miller Wilson Road further north. So that is 1A of the Kingwood Drive proposed changes. No change in classification, just a realignment. 1B, also Kingwood Drive. We're proposing a new thoroughfare, not a realignment, but a brand new segment, which would pick up where the realignment to the west leaves off at Miller Wilson, cross Loose Bayou at the narrowest point. This is still about 1,000 feet wide, although it is one of the narrowest points. Proceed through these properties and connect to the Grand Parkway at an existing interchange. This interchange is projected to extend through Liberty County, through the city of Dayton, to thoroughfares further east. And there's a major east-west route, I forget the FM number, that it connects to, and then ultimately to a major north-south route further east in the city of Dayton. So connecting to this interchange, we think is a big part of the Kingwood realignment, and that's why we kind of consider these two to go together. We think this is a really good driver for regional east-west mobility, especially with the interchange connection, that there's ramps here. So there's also connectivity to the Grand Parkway, north and south, and moving around in this area. We're not proposing to do anything to what is currently Kingwood on the map. We're going to leave it where it is. This is projected to extend to the Grand Parkway over here. But this connection over here is only an underpass. There's no ramps, and further east in Liberty County, it just kind of dies off into a collector street. So not proposing to delete this from the map, but we definitely feel like the proposed new route is a much stronger driver for mobility. So that is 1B. It is a new thoroughfare. Miller Wilson Road is K2. You might have heard me discussing this one with Lloyd and Chris. This is another segment that is crossing Loose Bayou. And again, crossing the bridge here is well over 1,000 feet, although we're not showing the floodway. But the floodplain is over 1,000 feet. And although this is a major north-south route, the complications of the bridge, especially since the southern end of this crossing would involve a third party, just makes it, incredibly challenging to achieve. Would have to definitely involve public participation, and really just looking at, we're trying to develop a thoroughfare plan that's buildable. A line on a map doesn't do you any good if it can't be constructed. And so we're asking for this to be considered as well in the grand scheme of things. So this is currently a T4100. And we're asking for this segment to be deleted. Magnolia Lane is K3. This is an existing major collector. It goes over to 2100 and stops. It's just about 2 or 3 miles long. I'm pretty sure, just from looking at the map, that this was added. The intention was to keep about 1 mile between Old Kingwood, a crossing, and then this connection up here. It's about a little over a mile spacing between the three of them. However, it is a crossing of Loose Bayou, again, over 1,000 feet. And if this new Kingwood alignment is approved, we definitely would prefer the thoroughfare to be the crossing and not the collector street. So it's something that Lloyd mentioned. I don't know if you heard. Although Magnolia Lane doesn't depend on Kingwood, they're certainly related. We would hope that they would be approved, both be approved. But even if Kingwood were not, we would still, try to minimize the impacts to Loose Bayou, and just, these crossings being so big and having so much impact to the natural environment, requesting just to not have to make those crossings. So this is a MJ 480 Collector Street, and we're proposing to delete it. And then K4, the last request, is Wolftrot Road. Wolftrot Road exists further south as kind of a 2-lane road. It jogs east-west and then north-south, and is projected to extend north through these properties and ultimately connect up to the Grand Parkway as a thoroughfare. One of the questions that we have really with Wolftrot, that it's not related to the floodplain, really just looking at, you know, how the thoroughfare map is being interpreted. It appears based on GIS that the thoroughfare leaves this property and enters that one, but sometimes that's interpreted to mean that it's supposed to straddle the property line. So we just wanted to be very clear through the thoroughfare amendment process, you know, is this on the property line and the two developers are splitting it, or is it all in our property? And I don't know if you're aware that the thoroughfare plan is really intended to be kind of a corridor. You know, it's not an exact, like you hit it this, you know, exactly 700 feet from the corner is where the thoroughfare has to be. There is some leeway, and there is some level of interpretation to, you know, if this line is here or over here, well, that's kind of really that, you know, you get from A to B at the end of the day. But we wanted to submit this officially as a request. First of all, you know, it makes, you know, this property more developable, that it has a thoroughfare half and half, but really just at the end of the day to define where this thoroughfare is. You know, is it on this property line, or is it in our property and we can kind of move it subject to interpretation? We'd like to move it, but the driver of this request is really just to define where is Wolftrot on the property. And
So
that's
if you, I'm sorry, if you move it further west, like you're proposing, does that in turn require a bridge over, I guess that waterway? Or,
no, so we would stay out of this floodplain. The scale of this is deceptive. This is like 1 inch to 1,000 feet.
okay,
So we would just kind of stay right on the edge of this floodplain right here and kind of be in the middle of this property and kind of divide it nicely in half. But that's the last request. It's currently a thoroughfare and will remain a thoroughfare. We just want to know where it is. And here's the map overall, and I'm available for any questions.
I think I'm good for now. Thank you for the presentation.
Absolutely. You see if anyone else has joined. Nope, just us.
So yeah.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing and put myself on mute. And if it's okay, I'm just going to run to the bathroom real fast.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
I'll let them know in case someone comes.
And yeah, if you could, just give me 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I'm back.
Awesome. No one came in.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to hang out. I'll just be on mute. I'll be here.
Okay, I'll do the same.
Cool. Thanks. Hi,
Hey, guys,
Sharon.
how's it going?
It was busy for a while, but it's quiet now.
Okay. Any challenges or questions that, well, you, Jennifer, I'm sure you could answer every question, but nothing that the city needed to address?
Nothing at this time. I'm sure we'll have some follow-up later.
Okay. Is anybody putting anything in the chat? Are they commenting, raising their hand, or they're just talking?
It's been all verbal as far
Okay.
as I have seen.
Okay.
Yeah, all burp.
All verbal? Okay, we making sure to get their names before they make their comments so that we have the information for the record.
Oh gosh, I did not catch the name of the representative for the property south.
Okay.
Mm,
Just,
some of the names are on the like chat whenever they joined it.
yeah, but we don't always know who's speaking. So just when they come in and they do speak, just ask them to state their name for the record. It'll be helpful when we go to make these comments public information.
It may have been John Kinsella.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was him, and I think he said his last name on the recording.
I remember he did when I was in here. Did he stay in a long time or did he come back?
He stayed for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe that's one and the same. And when I start listening to recordings, I can tell. I did hear him say his name early on because he was asking about how it would affect, I think it's employer's property or something like that.
Mhm.
Yes, I believe he was the representative of Lake Houston Venture, which is the large tract immediately south.
Okay.
I'll share my
Okay.
screen for just a moment. You can see Sharon.
Okay.
I believe it was Lake Houston Venture.
Okay. Yeah, down there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That's good. I think we're okay. I remember hearing him say his name. So if that's one and the same, when I listen to the recordings, I'll pick it up. But also, just for the record, guys, if they get on and start talking, ask them to state their name. Okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to go to another
Yes,
room.
thank you. I apologize, Sharon.
No problems, no problems. I thought that Lloyd asked some good questions and gave us some things to contemplate. So I tried to stay on to get everything. But we'll talk more,
Yes,
Jennifer, as this progresses, okay?
for sure.
Okay, thanks. Bye. All right, so far so good.
Yep. No more activity.
Great,
Yes.
I'll sit around. I'll come back. Thanks.
Ah. Hello?
Hello.
Are you here for the presentation?
I am here for the presentation, yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Are you able to hear him, Jennifer?
No, not. I'm getting like one sound and then nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he said he's here for the presentation. Do you want to try, like, I guess, leaving out of it and coming back, or?
Um, I'll just get started, and if I need to stop, you can just kind of, flag me in the chat or say something, interrupt me.
Okay, let me get him to state his name. Sir, are you able to state your name, please?
Yes, that would be Andre Diarina. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to hear Jennifer?
I am, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, she's not able to hear you, but if you need to speak or comment, or you can just put it on the chat or just let me know and I'll let her know.
I
Okay.
actually heard that time.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Okay, so I'll take it from the top and let me know if you have any questions or anything. Here we go. Okay. Oh, let me go back to the beginning. All right. So this is Section K, which is a set of 5 amendments, which are Kingwood Drive et al. I'm Jennifer Curtis with Meta Planning and Design. The location of this amendment request is in far northeast Harris County and partially in Liberty County. The area on the screen is Huffman, Cleveland over here on the left. This is FM 2100. And then the Grand Parkway, newly constructed over here on the right side. Loose Bayou or Lucy Bayou is a major riverway that goes through the area in the middle. And then the Inner Transfer Canal over here on the east. Generally the area that we're looking at here. Okay. We have a total of 5 requests. 2 of them are taken as a pair, and I'll start from the top. Request 1A, Kingwood Drive. Kingwood Drive is an existing thoroughfare over here on the west and is projected to extend in the future this way to the east. The proposed extension will cross Loose Bayou, and that crossing is about 2,700 feet from end to end of the floodplain at this location on Loose Bayou. We want to minimize the impacts of crossing Loose Bayou, and so we're proposing to realign Kingwood. Instead of hugging this property boundary, that it would kind of curl through the property to the north and kind of hug the north side of Loose Bayou, and would intersect further north on this thoroughfare, which is Miller-Wilson Road. So request 1A, Kingwood Drive is currently a T4 100 thoroughfare. It will remain. We're just realigning it further north. Request 1B, also a part of Kingwood Drive. We are proposing a new segment of thoroughfare that is not previously on the map. This would be an extension from request 1A, which realigned Kingwood up here. We would pick it up where that left off and extend a new thoroughfare to the Grand Parkway. The Grand Parkway has a full interchange at this location with ramps. So that would be a good connection to the Grand Parkway. And this route would extend further east into the city of Dayton and into Liberty County. There's a more extensive thoroughfare network over to the east that would ultimately connect into some primary routes in the city of Dayton area. So the goal for these 2 segments together, 1A and 1B, is first to bring Kingwood up and cross Loose Bayou at one of the narrowest points, which is still about 1,000 feet, but much narrower and less impactful than the crossing that was down here. And then to make this connection to the Grand Parkway, which we think is a great connection for east-west mobility for the whole region. And also by virtue of hitting the Grand Parkway at an interchange, will be better for north-south circulation as well. We're not proposing to do anything to this segment of thoroughfare, which currently is Kingwood, would remain on the map. It extends east and has an underpass of the Grand Parkway to the east, but no ramps. And that would remain as is. So in conclusion, creating a new thoroughfare, which would be a T4 100 thoroughfare, Kingwood Drive. Request K2 is Miller-Wilson Road. Miller-Wilson Road is a north-south thoroughfare in this part of Harris County. It's projected to extend across Loose Bayou. And again, trying to really minimize the impacts to the natural environment, and especially in the case of Miller-Wilson, the complications of constructing a bridge that's over 1,000 feet long with an endpoint that straddles a property line would definitely involve multiple parties, including county participation, to enact that bridge crossing. And really just looking at kind of the practicalities of the thoroughfare plan. You know, if trying to minimize impacts and make the thoroughfare plan something that's actually capable of being built. So requesting to delete the T4 100 segment, Miller-Wilson Road. Request K3 is Magnolia Lane. Magnolia Lane is currently a major collector on the thoroughfare plan. It extends roughly 3 miles between 2100 and right here, this thoroughfare. And looking at the spacing, thoroughfare to the next line to the south, which is currently Kingwood on the map. Magnolia Lane is a little over a mile in either direction, so it kind of completes the grid in this area to have east-west connections at about 1 mile each. But again, this is a major crossing of Loose Bayou, over 1,000 feet wide, and especially if the proposed addition of this new route for Kingwood is approved, the spacing from here to here, not really as necessary. To have two crossings so close together, we would propose to have a thoroughfare crossing instead of a collector crossing. We're not considering these necessarily tied together. We would still, even if Kingwood didn't happen, we would still request for Magnolia to be deleted because we do want to minimize the impacts to Loose Bayou, but they're certainly related. So this request, again, to delete major collector Magnolia Lane for that one segment. And then the last request is Wolftrot Road. Wolftrot Road is a north-south thoroughfare here. It's partially existing as a local street further south. It goes both east-west and north-south. And this request, not related to the floodplain, is really more about how the map is interpreted, the way that the line on the map currently falls. It kind of clips the corner of this property. And what we'd like to do is have it fall kind of in the middle so that it creates two large developable parcels on either side. But ultimately, really the question here is, how is the map being interpreted? Is this line meant to straddle these two properties, and so each developer is responsible for half the road? Or if it's all in our property, then do we have the leeway to move it kind of wherever we want? So we'd like to put it as shown, this realignment, but ultimately just asking the question. So Wolftrot Road is currently a T4100 and will remain a T4100, just talking about the alignment. Oh, that's mislabeled. And so here's all of the requests together again, and I'm available for any questions.
I said the information will suffice.
Okay.
All right, thank you for the presentation. I think that concludes my, participation in this. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Hey guys, doing okay over here?
Yep.
Okay, I'll be back. Maybe before
Oh,
I'll be back.
okay. Hi, Brandon.
I just want to come and say, hey, I didn't have anything. Hope all is well. I just want to chip in and see how Kingwood's going. I know Sharon's
We
going
had a
through.
busy start.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine.
It's been quiet the last half hour. We had a couple late arrivals, but for the
Okay,
most part, the first hour was busy, and then it's been mostly quiet.
nice. Any commissioners come by?
Commissioner Morris came by, and Commissioner
Okay.
Smith was in. Um, I wasn't monitoring the participants for the first hour because I was almost
Mhm.
constantly presenting.
Right.
I don't know if anybody else stopped by.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Okay, that's awesome. We appreciate you guys again. And we appreciate your help.
Sure thing.
All right.
All right, I think that's time. Should we close out?
Yeah, did Sharon said she was going to come back? Or
I thought she did. Do you just want to hang on for like 5 more minutes?
yeah, we can just wait for 5 more minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys ready to shut it down?
Yes, we're ready. We're just waiting for y'all.
Oh, you good to go. You can
Yep.
leave. Yep. Yeah. You guys can go ahead and check on out.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
See you. Bye.